So this is take 2 for the Silent Kings video. Now you guys have voted for the Silent King. I left it an extra day on the polls and it won. Well, the Silent King won with 41% of the votes. So we did the Silent King. I recorded the Silent King's video. I edited the video, uploaded the video, ready to go out on the 16th, and we had the update. So everything went to pot and it had to go in the bin. Scrap the video and start again. So take 2, let's go. Right, let's get into the comment. I feel like I've already done this, which I have. The comment from the previous video, which was the Locust Heavy Destroyers. This comment comes from The Real Capped Carrot. Why not units of 2, still 3 firing lanes, and a chance of reanimating a model? And you know what? After reading all the comments, a lot of people were suggesting Locust Heavy Destroyers in 2s. And I think I learned a lesson there, because you can't naturally be battle shocked when you've got a unit of 2. So if you lose one of the models, then you're not under half. Whereas if you've got 3 and you lose 2, you could be battle shocked. So it was quite a good insight with the comments there. So yeah, thanks to you guys, and I'm going to try that out a lot more. Right, so the Silent King, the big Necron boss, and yeah, he's come back to take his throne from Imhotep the Stormlord. Now, regular viewers on this channel will know I don't really get on with the Silent King. Not had much luck with fielding the Silent King. I'm going to try and keep this... I mean, it is still my opinion, but you just got to bear in mind that I don't get on with the Silent King. So, I mean, it has been updated, so things may be different now. I may be more inclined to try him out and maybe have a bit more success with him. But at this moment in time, the update has just come out. I've not had a chance to field him with the new update. So, we're kind of going with this as we go. So, yeah, he's 420 points. He's an epic hero, so no enhancements, of course. And it's a 3 model unit due to the 2 Triarch that flank him. Now, let's get into the questions. How many questions have I got? It might be 9, it might be 8. I can't remember how many I deleted because, yeah, it got a bit fuzzy. We're just going to get on with it. So, is he prone to 3 lots of assassination? Because there's 3 models in a unit. Now, previously, before the Prior Nexus, yes, he was. The unit was prone because the unit all shares the same keywords. For example, if you've got a Technomancer with a unit of Wraiths, they all share the infantry keyword, so they could all pop out of a monolith. Even though Canoptic Wraiths aren't technically infantry, they all share the keywords. So that would also, it used to imply to the Triarch. As soon as you remove a Menhir, assassination. You reanimate it, kill it again, another assassination. However, I know I've longed that out a bit, but there is a big however. The Silent King in the previous update, so not today's update or whenever you see this, in the previous update, his keywords were split. So all models are vehicles, all models are epic heroes, and all models have the new Triarch keyword. But Zarek has the character keyword, and only Zarek, so only himself. So in order for your opponent to score assassination, they need to take the Menhirs out and the Silent King just to get whatever points they're getting from their secondaries. If they're playing fixed, it used to be 12 points minimum. That's, you know, without reanimation and stuff. Now you've got to kill the entire unit just for the 4 points. And the same applies to if you're playing tactical. You've got to go through the whole thing, 26 wounds. After reanimation, that's quite difficult. So yeah, he is not prone to assassination. Now, of course, Bring It Down is a different situation because everything's got vehicle keywords, so that's different. But as for assassination, he's not prone. Question from Alpha: what's the best detachment for him? The best detachment for the Silent King, I already had this answer in, lockdown anyway, but I'm going to have to change my answer slightly, but it is the Obeisant Sphinx. Now, I'll go through the other 4 quickly. I mean, the Awakened Dynasty, a lot of the units are hitting on 2s because there's a leader in the unit. So maybe you get the rerolls of 1s with the Triarch ability. That's not worth 420 points. There's no point going with the Awakened Dynasty. You can't stick a Veil of Darkness on him. You can't bring him back from the dead with the Protocol of Returning Revenant. He's not infantry, and so on. With the Hypercrypts, there is some play there, but units like to stay within 6 inches of him because of his aura buffs. And if you're hyperphasing him away or hyperphasing other units away, then they're not going to be within 6 inches. Unless you bundle everything together with hyperphasing or with a monolith potentially, There are little smart combinations with Illumina Zares, a Monolith, Immortals, a Plasmancer, maybe the Silent King as well. But that's a sort of a one-trick pony, and I wouldn't advise the Hypercrypt with the Silent King. The Annihilation Legion already gives you the rerolls of charge rolls, which is one of his options of his auras, so they don't need that. Okay, they get a +1 to the strength, that would be nice I suppose, but it feels a bit pointless when you've already got the rerollable charge roll. And the Canoptic Core, with the Power Matrix, you're rerolling everything, and you're rerolling ones, even if you're not within the Power Matrix, which is one of the aura abilities that the Silent King gives. Reroll ones to hit and to wound. So there's only really the Obeisance Phalanx in my opinion, and that was before the update. Now with the update, it's definitely the right detachment because he's got the Triarch keyword. So worthy foes are +1 to wound against a selected unit in every single battle round for your entire army that's got the, well, anything that's got Lich Guard, Triarch or Noble keywords associated with their units. That includes Silent King. So your Annihilation Beams could be hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s maybe, wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s maybe, because of worthy I can't say that, worthy foes. I always get that twisted. So yeah, that's the first reason. The second reason, there's a couple of stratagems at work. I had one listed before, but now there's a couple. The first one, Nano Assembly Protocols for -1 to damage against a Necron's vehicle. He's a Necron's vehicle, so -1 to damaging for 1 CP is beautiful. And one that is new to him, because it applies to Lich Guard or Triarch units. You get +3 to the objective control of your unit. So I believe he comes with 5 OC or 6 OC. Is it 5 or 6? I'm going to have to check now because I have forgotten. He comes with 6 OC and then 1 each for the Trichomoneers. That will go to 8. So if you can +3 OC with this stratagem, that will be 11 OC because he's a vehicle. So that is also worth using on a Silent King. Now you would do that in your command phase, so don't miss that. Don't wait till the end of your turn and go, aha, territorial obsession. You've got to do it in your command phase. Next question, which Trike ability to select? Now there's 3 here. I'm going to quickly skim through them so we know what we're talking about. The first one basically gives you rerolls of hits of 1s and wounds of 1s. 1s of wounds? Wounds of 1s. Basically gives you rerolls of 1s to hit and 1s to wound for all units within 6 inches of Zarek, only Zarek, and that would include himself. The second one, rerollable charge rolls and a +1 to the strength within 6. Again, it includes himself. And the third one is units within 6, including himself, get to basically ignore any modifiers to characteristics and or tests and whatnot, apart from saving throws. So that could be the -1 within engagement range, or it could be a -1 to our toughness, for example, or some sort of damage, -1 to our damage roll, things like that. So we get to ignore them. Now, because you have to select this at the start of the battle round, if you go first, it's a lot easier to work this out, because it's your turn, you're about to do it, so you select it. But if you go second, you still got to do it before your opponent's turn, because it's the start of the battle round. So you've got to kind of pre-plan or preempt what your opponent is going to do, where they're going to move to. Are you going to need the charge rolls? Are you going to need the rerolls of 1s? Would you be better ignoring modifiers? You have to kind of work it out, and there's a little bit more difficulty when going second. Now I play them on the fly, but the main go-to for me is the rerolls of 1s to hit and 1s to wound. I think that's just a go-to because it works in melee, it works at range, it works on himself, and you're going to pretty much always use it, whether it's your opponent's turn in the fight phase or your turn. So there's plenty of places where you could be using that. Now, other people do suggest that the ignore modifiers is the best option. I personally don't see it. I mean, yes, like I said, you can ignore the -1 penalty while you're within engagement range. Yeah, that's cool. You're reducing toughness and so on. Maybe it is dependent on who you're going up against, but most of the time I would rather just reroll 1s, because you're hitting on 2s with the Silent King especially. That's without any modifiers, so maybe it would be 3s, but you're rerolling 1, so it almost feels the same statistically anyway. So yeah, I would pick the rerolls. So how do you get the best out of him? So I'm going to just assume that we're going along down the line of re-rolling 1 to hit and to wound, because that's what I would do, so that's how I'm going to answer the question. So what's the best way to utilise that ability? You've got to get the most out of it because you're 420 points here. You can't just use it on the Silent King. You're going to need assistance. You're going to need units to synergize with him. Now, those Triarch Praetorians are now only 100 points for 5. So they've got cheaper. They can shoot as well as fight. Same applies to the Triarch Stalker, which is now gone down as well. 100 and, I think it's 110 if I remember right. That's cheaper as well. It can also shoot. It can also fight. So 2 phases there where you're getting the rerolls. That's good. That's decent. So that's the first thing I would do. And as I said, they're both cheaper. The Silent King works with that detachment, the Obeisance Phalanx. So they're Triarch units. They're going to get a +1 to wound potentially. That's probably the best synergy you've got in terms of offense anyway. In terms of like the more common options that we have, like Locust Destroyers, Immortals, Locust Heavies, you can use them, but you're not going to get the max use out of it. You're not going to get it to the max because, for example, Immortals reroll 1s naturally to wound. So you've already kind of lost that part of the ability. Locust Destroyers reroll 1s to hit naturally, and Locust Heavies reroll 1s to wound naturally against their right targets. So those kind of units aren't necessarily going to get the full bonus. And the same goes to like Scorpion Destroyers as well. They get to reroll their hits in melee and so on. Other units such as the Canoptic stuff, like Wraiths or Doomstalkers or even Spiders, if you're taking a lot of them, then you're likely going to be in the Canoptic Court, which means they've already got the rerolls on anyway to hit with their power matrix. So you're probably not even taking the Silent King there anyway. If you are taking sort of a scattered amount, like one Doomstalker and a Canoptic Wraith unit within your Obeisance Phalanx detachment, then yeah, it might assist. Nothing wrong with it. So that's why I've got a question mark on the screen. It all depends on what you're doing. With the Catan, I mean, this came to me the other day in the Discord, and it was, the guys were saying, well, you know what, I can now get my Gaze of Death re-rolling 1s to hit and to wound. That's cool, it is, because I roll 1s with the Gaze of Death all the time, every single time. But you're paying 420 points for the Silent King, then near 300 points for your Catan, whatever one you're taking. Let's say the Nightbringer, 290 points, whatever he is. I'm talking about 700 points or whatever that is, just for those 2 units, and just to be able to reroll 1s. I don't think the synergy is as good, and you've put nearly half your list in terms of points in that one location. I don't think it's the best way to do it. As for himself, I mean, he's got a lot of weapons, so we should talk about how to get the best out of the Silent King with the Silent King's weapons. He's got those 2 Annihilation Beams, which stand out because they're Strength 14, -4, damage is 6, hits on 2s. Worthy Foes is now a thing, so it could be wounded on 2s maybe, and maybe re-rolling 1s to hit and to wound, which is really strong now. That makes them so much more reliable than they previously were. They're a solid anti-tank. They've only got 5 wounds though, those Tricommoniers, so they do go down, which will kind of take away your damage output if you do lose one of those Tricommoniers. The Scepter of Eternal Glory is nice. It is nice, Strength 10 -3 damage, but it's only 2 shots, so I kind of look away from it. And Devastating Wounds doesn't mean much when you've got 2 shots, really. The Staff of Stars, for me, is a better weapon, because you've got 12 shots, you're hitting on 2s, you're maybe re-rolling 1s, you've got indirect firepower, or indirect fire if you need it. Strength 6, -1, 1 damage. So again, you could be hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, you could be, against like the Toughness 3 stuff, you're wounding on 2s, re-rolling 1s, you're just literally obliterating little units of gaunts and things, just like that, even if they're hidden away. It's good. Now the melee side of it, the Minis don't do anything with the Armoured Bulk, don't even bother looking at that, but the final Triarch weapon is a very solid weapon, especially against your Intercessor level units, or similar units. It's got lethal hits with 12 attacks, so 2 of them on average will be 6s, but you're hitting on 2s, again maybe re-rolling 1s, you're then Strength 8, so you're wounded on 2s, maybe re-rolling 1s, -3 puts them on a 6+ armor save. If you're talking about Intercessors, then 2 damage just removes them. That again is just going straight through units there, which is really strong, really powerful. You don't really need Worthy Foes on Intercessors, but this could be now, maybe if it's a Toughness 5 unit, maybe it's like some Plague Bearers or something like that. You would normally wound on 3s, but if you've got Worthy Foes on, you'd be back to wounding on 2s again, rerolling 1s. Is the Silent King tough? Is he tough? He's fairly tough, is the honest answer. He's not super duper tough. He's not Catan tough. He's not Canoptic Wraiths with a Technomancer tough. He's not that level of tough. But toughness 10 is okay. That's probably the bit that lets him down. I think toughness 11 would have been a bit nicer. But toughness 10 is okay. A 2+ armor with a 4+ invulnerable save, that's as good as it gets, really. It's very rare that it gets better than that, so I'm happy with that. You've also got, of course, reanimation, or reanimation protocol, so when those Minears go down, they come back. With 26 wounds combined and reanimation, that's quite difficult to get through. So yeah, reasonably tough is probably the fair assessment. Should he have defensive aid? Big question, this one. Should he have defensive aid? He's already 420. If you add in more, means you're effectively creating a castle. You've got options here. Canoptic Spiders, to give him a Feel No Pain save. It's a 6+ Feel No Pain save because he's a vehicle, and a 5+ against mortal wounds and psychic attacks. So there's an option there for 75 points, Canoptic Spider. Battery change, again, where was I? Reanimator, yeah, double D3 in the command phase. You've got a Technomancer. Now you could play a lone Technomancer, but I would advise not to because it will just get picked off. But if you did do a lone one, or use some Canoptic Wraiths, or, I mean, you could use anything, I suppose. Immortals, 5-man Immortal unit, whatever. Technomancer gives you the Technomancer ability in the movement phase to heal D3 wounds. So you could in fact have all 3 here. All 3, that would be, yeah, reanimation is a lot. There's a lot of healing, there's a lot going off, but I think those 3 units alone is 235 points, but that's without the Technomancer leading anything, just on his own. On top of your 420 points for your Silent King, and then you've got to have some units within 6 inches for the synergy, for maybe the rerolls of 1s, or whatever you're selecting as your ability. That's going to be half your army. That's going to be a castle. That's the way you're going to have to play. And maybe that is the only way to play the Silent King. I don't know. I mean, castling him up it probably is the only way, to be honest with you. But the problem is there, though, is those of you that have been to tournaments, you'll know that the tournament terrain layouts are very full. There's terrain everywhere. Ruins, ruins, and ruins. And it's just packed. So to get the Silent King, the 2 Minears, a Reanimator, a Spider, a Technomancer, and his Immortals, and the units within 6 inches, whatever they may be. It could be Doomsday Arcs now, which are cheaper as well. That's a good little synergy there. Whatever you're taking, it's going to get quite clunky, and movement is going to be absolutely paramount, because you're going to not have line of sight if you've moved incorrectly, which is going to happen quite often with castles that size. You're going to lose line of sight, which makes the units less effective. Imagine your Doomsday Arcs just don't have any sight of anything because all these other things are in the way. It's that stuff. That really sucks. Next question is from Ink. Where would you use him in game? Frontline, objective taker, etc. So where would I use him? Now, you do need to move up the board in my opinion, because all the ranged weapons are only 24-inch range with the Silent King. Now, those beams are powerful. You don't want to be wasting them, not for a single turn. You want to be making sure they shoot good targets, and they're not exactly Doomsday Arcs or Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Gorse Disruptors. They've not got that kind of range. You can't just sit at the back of the board and expect them to land. So you're going to have to go forward, but it does depend on what units are synergizing with the Silent King. It also depends, I guess, on your opponent's faction. If you're coming up against World Eaters, they're going to come forward. So that 24-inch range is going to get closed for you by your opponent. So in them situations, you could just sit back and just wait. But against a lot of other factions, you're going to have to go forward, especially if you want the right targets. You're going to have to move. Now, personally, to answer Ink's question, what would I do with him? I would do the obvious thing, which is go to the centre of the battlefield. The reason being is, first of all, there's probably an objective there. So there's a bit of OC, or a nice bit of OC, and a very tanky unit or 2 on the main objective. It's a key location of the battlefield, the centre. Most things do go through the centre. The second reason is there's a hare flying around. Get out there. The second reason is his aura. You've got a 360-degree aura of your 6 inches. If you're on the side of the battlefield, A, you're not going to have range of stuff, but B, you can only use like that 180 degrees of units to be within synergy. If you're in the centre, you've got the entire circle. And that's sort of similar with the range weapons. You've got a 360 degrees of 24-inch range from the centre, which is quite a lot of the board if you are literally in the centre spot. If you're in a corner, you're not making the max use of that range really. Or you're not going to be... Your targets are not going to be as efficient, and you're going to be forced to target things you may not necessarily want to target. So yeah, I would go to the centre. It's also going to help for secondaries. Maybe you pull area denial, might be useful. I mean, most things are going to relate to the centre anyway. You can do, well, all the actions could be done, I suppose, with another unit nearby. The only one you can't really do is engage, but you could just move him out for that turn. Containment is not going to be doing that kind of action anyway. Final question. This one I'm definitely going to have to change my answer from my previous recording. Is he too expensive? Big question, big question. I'm going to give you my answer. I have edited it slightly, and then the ending is, well, let's see. So, I've kind of broken this down into what you could instead get. And I've tried to compare it as close to the Silent King's weapons as possible. So, hear me out. So, you could get 2 Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Gorse Destructors, for example, right? That's now 110 points because they went up. They have the same sort of output as the 2 Triarch with the beams, the Annihilation beams. They're both strength 14, minus 4 AP and 6 damage. So they kind of match out slightly. One's lethal hits, one hits on 2s, and so on. You can then get a Doomstalker. That's 145 points. It's got a better damage output than the Scepter of Eternal Glory, in my opinion. D6 plus 1 attacks rather than 2. And it's strength 14, not strength 10. You can then get a single Locust Heavy Destroyer with the Exterminator weapon for 55 points, which has pretty much the same output as the Staff of Stars. Within rapid fire range, that is. 12 shots, that's strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. So when you add those 3 units together, a total of 3 Locust Heavies, although 2 weapons are different to the 1, and the Doomstalker, that comes to 305 points. That's just the range side of it. In melee, you could get a couple of Cloptic Spiders, similar damage output to the Silent King's melee attacks. That would total 460 points. And that covers all the weapons, in my opinion. Roughly, give or take. So which is, 460 points is 40 points more than the Silent King's actual cost. And of course, we've not even spoken about, the toughness of the model, the inbun save, the 2+ armor save, and the buffs, the rerollable ones, or whatever you're selecting. There is a but to this. You potentially got, maybe 6 units there if you split everything up. That's 6 units that could be doing 6 different primary objectives, or 6, well, not 6 secondaries because you can't have 6, but they can all be doing their own secondaries. There could potentially be 6 lots of reanimation protocols going off if they're damaged. They're going to be zoning out space in 6 different locations for, zoning out deep strikes or screening off other units and so on. Board control in general, having 6 locations on the battlefield with 6 different ranges and so on. But you're paying 40 points more for that, and you're not having all the abilities that the Silent King has, I suppose. Now, if you like to castle, the Silent King is your man. He's a good castle. He can shoot, he can fight, he can buff. Great castle unit. You've got other units like the Monolith. I don't think it's as good. Tesseract Bolt doesn't fight as good. Shoots okay. Now that he's got the right keyword, Triarch keyword, I think it makes him good. And especially with the Obeisance Phalanx units now, like the Triarch Praetorians and the Triarch Stalker, they're cheaper now. The Doomsday Ark's cheaper. I know he doesn't relate to they don't relate to the detachment, but you could have a couple of flanking Doomsday Arks re-rolling ones to hit him to wound. That's cool. I think I want to do that, in fact. That's probably a competitive build for what we're trying to do here. I personally still think he's a little bit much. If you ask me, would you rather have a Silent King or a Void Dragon? I think I'd want the Void Dragon, and the Void Dragon's a lot cheaper. I know that might sound silly, because the Silent King's worth a lot more, but I think I'd just rather take like a Catan. But this is all sort of theory hammer now, because like I said, the update has just come out literally today. I haven't tested the new Silent King and the new points costs for these Triarch Praetorians and so on, so maybe you get a lot more, bang for your buck. So we're gonna have to test it out. So at this moment, is he too expensive? I think so, but I can't be confident to say that anymore.